Hey there, Average Joes. Welcome back to the Eternal Struggle. After a week hiatus, I am your average host, JayMang. Hey, nice to see you all again. Today I'm joined by my taller than average co-host, TallSharkandHandsome. How you been, bud?
It feels like it's been a million years. I missed you, Daddy.
Hmm. Everybody
How have you
misses
been?
Jay Daddy. I've been pretty good. I had a very nice vacation. I unplugged for a week, pretty much, as far as like gaming goes, and got to spend some time down in Atlanta doing cool shit like we went to the aquarium down there, and they have I believe it's the world's largest tank, and they have three whale sharks in the tank, and
Oh shit!
they are fucking ginormous. I've got like a DSLR camera, and I took it
Yeah.
down, and I tried to get as many good pictures as I could, which I'm learning. I'm still learning stages. I'm learning very quickly that tons of pictures is how you get good pictures. You just
Oh yeah.
take a billion shitty ones, and you'll find a couple ones that are pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they say like 1 out of every 10 is decent.
Yeah. I'm learning that very quickly because I'll like take and even so like I'll take pictures and then on the like display screen check it real quick and I'll be like, oh, that looks good, and then later on I'll put it on the computer and I'm like, this looks like shit, like what the
Yeah. Later, I'm
ass.
like, how was I like cross-eyed?
Yeah, I'm still learning because I got like a starter set, and my bigger lens is I'm learning looks nicer when I'm shooting photos, but looks worse when I look at them on the computer. But enough of that. How about you tell me about your last 2 weeks in Eternal?
Oh boy, they have definitely been eventful. Where did we leave off even? I don't know. I've been playing a whole bunch of Argenport Ramp. I've been playing a whole bunch of Skycrag. I'm sorry, Stone Scar. Fuck, I can never get those two correct. And there's been a couple of other pretty cool brews that I've been playing, but we'll save some of those for later. And then there's been some other interesting things that we'll get to as part of our topics as well. Jay, how about you? What have you been doing for the past 2 weeks besides your vacation?
So I just realized that in the video I had our fucking show notes on screen. And
God damn it, Jay.
I just fixed that. So whatever. Everybody that's watching got a little sneak peek at what we're gonna talk about. Um so I didn't play at all while I was on vacation, so that was pretty nice. But before vacation and after vacation, I have been playing, and I've been playing primarily AP Ramp, like Argenport Ramp. I just got to give a shout out to our buddy Zyrith. Zyrith makes very, very good fucking decks. I think that Zyrith is one of the more underrated brewers in Eternal right now. I feel like I don't hear his name thrown around very often, and he does produce some pretty fucking spicy lists. And I'm glad that
Yeah, man.
he joined the Discord and started sharing with us what he's making.
Oh yeah, Zyrith is my boy. He's really good at creating a deck that's good in the meta, which I
Yeah,
think is a very, very good skill to have.
yeah, the Argenport ramp deck, it's a little weak to aggro, but like it is surprisingly resilient to just about everything else.
Yeah.
On the surface, it feels kind of weird to play because you're kind of just dirtling really, really hard, and like even playing your Moctos is pretty dirtily. But that's primarily what I've been playing for my climb. I wanted to try and hit masters before I went on vacation, but I didn't have enough time to. And I got back um basically Saturday. Like I got back Friday night, but too late to like be playing games. Got back
Yeah.
Saturday and I played a handful of games. I'm in Diamond 2 right now. I'll get up there probably this week. As
Yeah.
long as I'm not playing Magic, since I just bought back into Magic Online.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was playing a little bit of Apex this week, but I'm at Diamond 1 right now. I'm about halfway through there. There's a list that actually Zyrith gave me, which is I don't think yeah, it's not our brew of the week, but it's a pretty interesting one. Maybe I'll mention it later.
Hmm.
Um
Shout out to our boy
um
Zyrith again. We
yeah,
love you.
Zyrith.
Okay, so quickly, I want to go over what our topics this week are. Some of these we're gonna try. We're gonna try to blast through these because we have more topics than usual. So we're gonna briefly talk about the nerfs that we think matter, at least. I know that this is kind of old news at this point, but we didn't get a chance to talk about them and go over them. And nerfs and buffs. I'm sorry, I like balance changes, I should say. And then topic 2, we're going to talk about ETS this past week. We're going to skip. I originally wanted to talk about week 5, but at this point, we've got so much to talk about already. So we're going to talk about ETS week 6, and then we're going to talk about the ECL season 2 invitational and those top 8 deck lists. And then we're going to talk about the Opal Waystone Classic that's coming up, that's sponsored by Shiftstone and Eternal Warcry, and I believe it's being organized by our buddy The Rock. And I'll go over how you can enter that and what it actually is and prizes, and then we're going to briefly touch on the controversial topic of alpaca lips being banned on the subreddit.
All right. So the first topic, we're going to talk about the balance changes from back on June 6th. They're a little bit dated now, but we didn't get a chance to talk about them. So we're just going to breeze through them real quick, just the ones that we find interesting or relevant or whatever. So start off, we're going to start with the nerfs. Palace. You have been a proponent for fuck Palace since basically it came out.
Yes!
It used to give endurance to all of your units with strength 4 or more, but now it says when you play a unit with strength 4 or more, it gains Aegis. So it doesn't automatically give all of your old units an ability. It only works on units that come out afterwards. And another thing is that the card endurance, or the card withstand, changed, which used to give +4/+4 permanently and Aegis, now gives endurance permanently with the +4/+4 instead. So they kind of just swapped the two abilities and made it a little bit different, which I think has been a pretty solid nerf. It's still really powerful, but it's not just absolutely backbreaking.
Yeah, I think that this change fits into like the where they wanted the card to fit a lot better. Like it's a more along the power line of being good for mid-range / go big decks, and less like, oh, you can jam this into any deck that has these two factions in it. So I'm very happy with that change. Nice. Right in the middle. So the next nerf was Svetya's Sanctum, which they just increased the cost by 1 more, which is solid. Like being able to play that on turn 5 and taking off a turn was I mean, like I don't really know how much this actually changes, because I know that people like Eric are still playing with Svetya's Sanctum post nerf. Oh, yeah. But I mean, like that's reasonable. I mean, it was obviously a problem, but I don't necessarily know like how much of an issue it was when you're also nerfing like I don't know, like that's the thing. Like I think that they hit a lot of cards with this balance patch, and it felt like instead of a targeted change to cards, it was like here's all of these cards that we think are too powerful or not powerful enough, and we're just going to change them all at once and hope that it turns out really well.
Yeah, they instead of doing like a snipe of like one specific card or like one specific archetype, they were just like, here's a shotgun.
Yeah, they bazookaed the format. Like they really really bazookaed the format. I think that like these decks still exist. Obviously Stone Scar's still around. Stone Scar's really popular, but like Horror Control is about the place that I want it to be. It's still very powerful, but like harder to play and sees less play on ladder, which is more enjoyable for me, which is I mean it's selfish thing. In the same vein, they increased the cost of Martyr's Chains by 1, which I don't, at the time, like I was like, I don't really know like what the purpose behind increasing Martyr's Chain. It was already pretty hard to play, even in the decks that like the reason they made this change was like FJS decks. Basically they were being like, FJS, like this is a very powerful card in FJS decks, but like it can still go into ramp decks. So like I mean like it felt kind of weird, but it makes sense. It's still very good in ramp decks. So I mean it's played in the Argenport ramp deck in the market, and it's very powerful there. So, I mean, it's still a
Yeah,
very good card. Talking
exactly.
about very good cards that got nerfed, why don't you tell us about the
Well,
next one?
interestingly enough, it was Vicious Highwayman. It went from it went from a 4-cost 4/2 to a 5-cost 5/3.
Hmm.
And a lot of people were sad about the nerf. It makes it so that it doesn't really fit into Haunted Highway anymore because it can no longer be screamed back. However, one of our buddies, Enroush, actually claimed that this was a buff rather than a nerf
Yeah, this is
because
a
it
pretty
now fits on.
controversial opinion, I would say.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he says that it fits in a different spot on the curve now, and increasing the attack and defense of it, in addition to changing where it fits in the curve, was better for a Stone Scar list or maybe even an FJS list.
So here's my opinion, and take this for what it's worth because Enrosh is a much better player than I. Um, I think that what he is saying is true if Eclipse Dragon wasn't a card. I think that Eclipse Dragon fits in that spot a little bit better because of evasion and the fact that it has quick draw, which is kind of like situational, but like and then on top of the other ability of Eclipse Dragon also being situational. Like I just feel like the where Vicious Highwayman really shined was it was not only an aggressive threat, but it was an aggressive threat that was really, really, really good against aggro and helping you stabilize against aggro. Like I felt like playing Vicious Highwayman on turn 4 was a integral part of turning the corner against aggro and like the really really fast hard to disrupt aggro starts. That being said, I do agree that the card is still playable, but I think that it belongs more of a market card now.
Um, kind of. I mean, it's funny if you look at Enroush's Twitter. He recently, well, relatively recently, I think this was. Oh, it was actually 6 days ago. He posted a screenshot: 0 dragons, 0 Tasbu, and he's just won 11, 12 games in a row. He said Vicious Highwaymen got buffed with claps in between.
Yeah, I mean, I again, grain of salt. Anarosh is an extremely good player who comes up with lines that are much better than your average player, including myself. So I have done a lot. I have used Enroush as an example before for decklists and play style. And I mean, he thinks of lines that I just don't like, just don't come to my head. So I think again, card is playable. It does, and I think he is correct that it belongs somewhere else. And people, maybe it's just people are ignoring where that spot is right now and going with more obvious cards like Tazbu, which we'll get to in a little bit. So let's move on to Amran Stinger. Oh, you want
Actually,
one more thing?
one more thing. I found his entire reasoning. He posted it on as a comment on Twitter. He said that only 3 of the 15 merchants trade with it instead of 10 out of 15 when it was a 4/2, as well as frequently other played 2 attack units. It is generically a faster clock now. It no longer competes with Vara and Nullblade in the 4-drop slot. It attacks into 6 health units like Sandstorm Titan, Vara, Siditi, and 5 health Aegis units like Champion of Cunning and sometimes Kaifis or, I don't know, other 5-cost units, whatever. It also dodges Char against Mono Fire. It's higher on the curve, so opponent's removal is stressed, making it more likely to hit and gain life. And this is all, of course, additional benefits to what it already had going for it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
those are very
Again,
sound reasons. So
yeah. Super
um,
smart guy.
I'll
Thanks,
deflect to
Enron.
him. I went ahead and broke down the 3 that I had crafted just in case. Because I have one premium that I'll hold on to for market reasons, and I can always just recraft them if I at some point decide to. And then so moving on to Amran Singer, they reduced the toughness to 3 instead of 4, which I think is pretty reasonable. Like Amran Stinger does a very powerful effect that I felt like was kind of hard to counter. Like it's very very good against fire based decks, and how do fire based decks deal with it other
Yeah,
than torch?
it was basically only removable in the early game by either like the the
Defiance.
ice, Defiance or Ice Bolt. Is that the one?
Yeah, I
Like
believe it's called Ice Bolt. Yeah.
yeah, like those are like the two spells that could stop that before it hit you.
Hmm.
And now it also opens up Torch.
Easier to
I
block.
think it's much fairer. Yeah.
For sure. Card still seems playable.
Yeah.
Definitely does a very powerful effect. I think it's one of those cards where I've always felt like Amran Stinger was a bad card, but I mean, it's proved me wrong. So it's
Oh yeah.
obviously like in its 2/4 form was a good card. It's yet to be seen whether or not the 2/3 is good enough. So why don't you tell us about the last buffs or nerf so that we can get into buffs?
Yeah, so the last nerf was Boar. Instead of having, creating a copy of Boar when you cast it that costs one, okay, so the card reads, destroy target relic, create a copy of Boar and put it into your hand, discard it at the end of turn. Now, each copy of Boar that you create increases the cost of Boar by one. So if you create a new copy, if you bore something, instead of having a one cost boar in your hand, you now have a two cost boar. Then you bore another thing, you now have a three cost boar, which is great. I think that's phenomenal. That is great, kind of design space. It makes it so that, some people would merchant for bore something, and then merchant that other copy of boar back. So they had another one cost boar, but now that boar costs 3 or 4, depending on how many relics you killed. And it makes it so that you can't just, if you have 6 power, machine gun an entire rats deck into the ground. It's
Yeah,
still a really good spell, but like it's not just absolutely backbreaking to any relic based strategy.
Yeah, this is actually a change that I think that I had brought up in the past. Like one of our early episodes, I had mentioned that I felt like Boar needed a nerf, and like one of
Mm-hmm.
the ideas was increasing the cost by one every time. It seems kind of weird that it happened now. I think that they took this opportunity because they were nerfing Palace to be like, well, we can go ahead and hit Boar now because of that. And Boar is always one of those cards that every once in a while, when it becomes prevalent in the meta, people are like, oh god, this just it I can't play my Rats deck or whatever. Which I actually felt like Rats was pretty resilient to Boar, like the previous rendition of Rats. Maybe not the current one because it plays less relics, but I mean
Yeah.
that's besides the point. It's an okay
Yeah.
nerf.
All
All right.
right, so let's move on to the buffs here. These are cards that got changed for the better. We've got Larai the Appraiser. That's the 3-cost legendary 0/6 Explorer. The enemy player can't attack with relic weapons or activate relics. Pay. It used to say pay 3 to twist and draw a relic from your deck with cost equal to her health. However, now it only costs 2 to twist, which is kind
She
of cool.
much cheaper to twist her nipples.
Yeah, god damn it.
So
I
I
don't
don't.
think she's really seeing much play anywhere. Maybe in like draft, maybe.
Yeah, so the only reason I included this card is, and it's a really stupid reason, but I included this card because that weapon deck has been getting really popular. The Weapon Reanimator Even Reweave deck. We'll cover it in a little bit. That's the only reason I brought this card in is because it is technically a hate card for that deck in a
Yeah.
way.
Okay. I can see
but
that.
but I don't think it's necessarily playable. I just wanted to include it because it's possible. It's a build around card. So and it costing 2 to twist makes it a lot more playable.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Um, okay, so let's move on to Tazboo, the Forbidden, which is hilarious because our last episode we were talking about card evaluation, and Tazboo was one of our examples talking about how he doesn't replace himself. Well, guess what, boys and girls? Now he
Now
does.
he does.
He replaces himself when he dies, which makes him infinitely more playable in my opinion. I haven't crafted him yet, but I do want to try him out. He is integral to the most popular version of Stone Scar that's going around right now, plus some other shadow heavy decks. So I
Yeah.
definitely think you should keep your eye out on this one.
He used to be a 5-cost 6/6 with deadly that when another one of your units dies, you take 1 damage and draw. Now he says whenever one of your units dies, including Tazboo, you lose a life and draw a card,
Yeah.
which is pretty awesome.
Makes him way more playable. Let's move to the other 5 faction unit that got buffed. Zumukan.
Zumacan the Surveyor. Yes,
The Surveyor.
That used to be a 6/6. It is now a 7/7. This card, I've actually been playing with this card in Praxis with Dawnwalkers, and this guy can be a huge beating. Just like end of the turn, I'm going to play my 7/7 off the top of my deck. I'm going to get back my Dawnwalkers, and I'm going to hit you for 15. Like, control decks can't deal with that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a pretty solid upgrade. Like, I think that that's pretty reasonable. Like at a 6/6, you have a handful of issues being a 6/6, but at 7/7, I mean, like that's pretty reasonable considering the biggest thing that he has going for him is the ambush, I feel like. So
Warp is also pretty powerful, but yeah.
I mean, like the warp definitely. So let's move on to Bam Sneaky Peeky, which I don't know if Bam is necessarily playable, but for those of you who don't know what this card does, it is a 2 primal 4 cost 3/5 Yeti that says when he attacks, you play a 1/1 Yeti Spy. And then shift 3, transform a card of your choice in the enemy market into a 1/1 Yeti Spy. So Direwolf has shown that they are trying to come up with ways to encourage players to play market hate strategies. And I believe that the buff was, it used to cost 4 to shift it. 3 is much more manageable, especially if you're on the play. So you can shift right before your opponent likely would hit their market.
And then the last card that got buffed was Incendiary Slagmite. You may not remember what this card is, but it's the 2 cost 3/1 Grenadin with Onslaught. Secretly choose a card in the enemy's market. The next time they draw a card from their market, any card, you transform the card that you chose into a firebomb. So if they choose the card that you got, or that you chose, they draw a firebomb and take 5. But if they choose a different one, then they see that that card turned into a firebomb. So the card used to be 2 cost fire. Now it's just a 2 cost single fire influence. So that's pretty good.
All right. Just supporting what I was saying about Sneaky Piggy, where they're trying to encourage us to use anti-market strategies, or at least like they're not trying to make them super powerful, but they're trying to, give us options.
Anyways. Yeah, they're trying to make it so that not every deck needs to be running a market, and it's really working because there's a lot of even costed decks, which are pretty much the only ones that I've seen that don't really have markets these days.
Yeah, honestly, the prevalence of even decks alone make these terrible cards to be playing in Constructed already.
Yeah, that's true. The even costed, the even-handed Golem single-handedly, made these other market hate cards bad.
Yeah. I mean, not other than the fact that they're actually just not great cards anyways. But yeah. All right. So let's move on to our topic 2. So the next 2 topics, we're going to talk about some tournaments this past weekend. Going to go over some deck lists. There's some spicy ones in here, so strap right in. Let's go right into the ETS Week 6. First place was taken by Dr. Pringles on what I am calling AP Even Reweave. It's very popular right now on ladder. I have seen quite a bit of it. It is essentially a Auric Reclaimer and Sword of the Sky King deck that happens to be even and plays Memory Dredgers and like a lot of value engine style cards, plus you get to reweave into a fake Sword of the Sky King. What's there not to love?
Yeah, this deck is really cool. Reweave is, like I've said a million times, hands down my favorite card from Dark Frontier. Even Golem very, very close behind. Even-handed Golem, sorry. But there's a lot of really cool interactions with this deck that you may not recognize at first. You play a Sporefolk on turn 2, then on turn 3 you can reweave it for Auric Reclaimer and get that Sword of the Sky King if you happen to mill a sword.
But the amount of times that's happened to me.
Oh my god, so many times. It also plays Nullblade in case your opponent is also doing the same kind of thing, or if you run against the same deck. It plays Memory Dredger in case your opponent, gets rid of your Auric Reclaimer or your even-handed Golems or whatever. There's a lot of cool stuff going with it. I will say that I Actually, I believe I was playing Dr. Pringles. Yeah, I was playing Dr. Pringles, and I got out, what's that 3-cost legendary elf from the new set? The one with shift 6 make 3/2/1 elves.
Something.
Vishni, yes. I played that against him. A lot of people may not realize this, but it actually has a first line of text is flying. The second line of text says, infiltrate, steal the enemy void.
Oh, you're not talking about Osei. Oh yeah, he does have that infiltrate. That's because that's the guy that shifts and gets you 3/2/1s, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's the card, and like that's what most people see it as. It's either a 3/3 flying or the shift to get three dudes. And the infiltrate was huge. And I was actually playing Dr. Pringles on ladder. I think we were both in Diamond 1 at the time. He's probably in Masters by now, but yeah, he got off a really early sort of the Sky King, but I shifted the Vishni and then I hit him with it, stole his void, and he didn't really have anything else to do. So I ended up actually winning.
Jeez, this thunderstorm is very loud. I am sorry for everybody listening if that's bothering you that it's coming through. I don't want to spend a ton of time trying to figure out if I can keep it from coming through the mic. So,
Jay, how about you just turn off the weather, please? Thank you.
Oh, okay. You're right. You're right. Why didn't I think of that? Anyways, so let's move on to the second place deck, which was Eric 9099.
Member of the Great Parliament. Thank you.
Always bridesmaid, but also the bride.
The
amount of times this guy has gone and made second place or won tournaments is amazing. Quite possibly the best current active player of Eternal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but they actually just, like, a few minutes before we started doing this podcast, they just announced the lineup for the Worlds.
Yeah.
And he is one of them. He is one of the people on Worlds, and it's insane. He's won 2 of the tournaments where he could have been invited to this. So really, he should have 2 slots here. The cool thing about Worlds is that even the last place person gets $2,000.
Yeah. I think that the safest bet for Worlds is betting on him to win. Anyways, so I digress. So he was actually playing Praxis Pledge. It's a pretty normal Praxis Pledge deck. I don't really think that there's a whole lot to say here other than the fact that he was playing spicy Zuberries. He was playing 3 Zuberries in the list. But other than that, that's really the only difference. I believe that Zuberi is actually in the spot of where the flex spot where they had possibly some extra fast spells. Oh, and he's not playing.
Titans.
What?
He's playing 1 Sandstorm Titan.
Oh, that's awfully weird. Oh, and he's also not playing the dragons. So he's not playing.
Right.
Which makes sense because Zuberi seems just better if you're only playing 4 torches.
Man, can you imagine getting a Gunrunner from Zuberi or a Heart of the Vault from Zuberi, just having deal 4 damage to an enemy? You know, can hit a site, can hit an enemy unit, can hit the enemy in the face for 4.
Yeah, this seems pretty good.
It's a really cool interaction. That's really smart of Eric.
All right, so let's move to 3rd and 4th place. Try to pick up the pace here a little bit. Yeah. So in 3rd place, we have something real spicy. Ray V3, our well-known player of Maul decks, decided to bring this spicy Mono Shadow list to ETS this week, taking 3rd place. So I'm going to run through this list real quick since this is obviously not a very common deck to be playing. It's playing a lot of the usual suspects that you would see in Shadow. So there's 4 Shakedown, 3 Suffocate, 3 Desecrate, 2 Vara Favor, 4 Annihilate, and then we start getting a little spicy here. We got 4 Marionette Cross. And then some of the more back to usual suspects, we got 4 Argentport Instigator, 4 Blackhall War Leader, 2 Rip Knight Assassin, 4 Carindon Merchants, 4 Ristas, 4 Varas, 4 Veteran Mercenary, which makes sense if you're playing a mono faction list, and then 4 Tazbu, which makes sense because Tazbu would fit in a mono shadow deck. In the market, we
Yeah.
see another Desecrate, a Burglarized, a Null Blade, a Vara Fate Touch, which makes sense, and a Deez's Office. So, I mean, it's just here's all my good stuff shadow cards deck.
Yeah, this list seems really cool. I faced against it on the ladder earlier today and lost to it. Suffocate is actually in a really, really good spot now, and it's cool to see them playing Desecrate, Annihilate, and Suffocate. All of the black 8 cards.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're going to be killing whatever you're playing and then hitting you with a bunch of little dudes.
Yeah, pretty normal mid range deck, does powerful things, and I obviously got third place with it. So our fourth place deck list is Genève Peaks deck. I don't really want to talk about it much because it's very stock.
Yep, I don't think that there's a single card in here that would surprise anyone.
So moving on to 5th through 8th lists, we have Notorious GHP with a updated Stone Scar list. So the biggest differences between this and the previous renditions of Stone Scar is it looks like they went up to 4 Annihilates. So I believe this is a Team Rank Star special. Like, I think that they're really, really, really into this deck list in particular. So I'm pretty sure, I just wanted to go over these differences because I'm pretty sure that every Stone Scar list we see by TRS from here on to the rest of the cast is going to be this exact 75. So they went up to 4 Annihilate. They're playing the Sinway Smuggler instead of the Ixtian Merchant. And they went up to 3 Ristas and 3 Statuary Maidens, and then added Tazbu to the deck, which makes sense. Tazbu is very good.
They also added Cabal Standards, which were not in most other lists that I've seen. And the market is actually pretty strange there with a Cauldron Cookbook. That's cool.
Oh, I haven't seen that in a while. They have a Deez's Office in here too, which is a lot higher amongst the curve. And they actually cut the Flame Blasts, so that was removed from the list as well.
Yeah, I think Deezo's Office is for those games when you just draw a million power, or maybe if you're playing against like the Mirror and you both are just killing every single unit that comes out. Eventually, you play a Deezo's Office. It's both removal and a life padding because it gives all your units lifesteal. So that's a cool thing right there.
All right, cool. Why don't you take us into the next list?
All right, next list is Huru Control by Gozu. This is pretty usual. There are a couple of weirdnesses in here. One is that it plays a 1 of Reread, which is the 2-cost spell that says draw a spell from your void. It gets void bound. So, it can be your 5th Harsh Rule or your, your 5th, literally any card. Pristine, or well, I guess your 3rd Pristine Light because it's only running 2. But
it just gives you options.
Yeah, it's got a Scourge of the Frostholm in the market, Royal Decree, all these cool cards. And it's still running a Palace in the market as well. Very cool.
Pretty list. Normal.
All right, so this last list, well, I think it's the second to last. Yeah, second to last list of the ETS here. This list is called Team Genji Votes in a 5-Way Split by Bike Spokes. This list is super duper spicy. It is a reweave. Argenport reweave splashing for Gar, Master
It's not
Sandmaid.
even splashing, it's just a singleton in the deck.
Oh, well, there was a different version of this list that I saw. Oh, the other version was the Shadows version. It's pretty similar, but it had like a crest that made it so that you can actually cast Gar. But yeah, this list is really, really spicy, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later because it is our brew of the week.
All right, cool. We'll get back to that in a little bit. So our final list, just real quickly, is actually by the Platypus King, who we've shouted out before. Money Buys Anything is what he called it. It's actually just a Skycrag mid-range deck.
Skycrag Dragons, I believe. Actually.
I guess Skycrag Dragons. Yeah, that makes sense. Which is a glorified mid-range deck. So 4 Oni Dragonsmith, you've got your 4 Dusk Raiders, 4 Howling Peak Smugglers, 4 Crimson Firemoth, 4 Poaching Drake, 4 Zuberi, 4 Eclipse Dragon, and 2 Thunderstrike Dragons. And then
which is basically 4 Thunderstrike Dragons.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing super out of the ordinary in this list or spicy. It's got Torches, Ice Bolts, Permafrosts. Your market has a Howling Peak, Molot and Nakova. There's a Swift Refusal, Royal Decree, Flame Blast. I mean, this is what I would imagine a Skycrag Dragons deck would look like, even though it's not been very prevalent in the format lately.
Yeah, I have not seen a Skycrag Dragons list yet, other than this specific one on the list here, and I think this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Good on Platypus King for playing it. I don't know if he designed it or whatever, but it's really cool. I like it a lot, and congrats
Yeah.
on his 24-hour stream that he did.
Yeah, I may take this out for a spin.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't have Zuberries though.
that's a mistake.
Okay, so let's move on to the ECL tournament, which was the ECL Invitational, was this past Sunday, and it was won by Alexi. Word I can't pronounce. Playing a very interesting deck that they called Huru Value. So the deck appears to be a value engine style deck. They were playing 4 Defiances, 2 Second Sight, 4 Gust Rider, which is the onslaught, draw 2, discard 2, 4 Hojin, 4 Rhyme Scale Smuggler, 4 Winchest Merchants, so they're playing 8 merchants, 4 Crown Watch Press Gangs to get their Gust Riders.
3.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3. 4 Jotun Hurlers, 3 Rost, 1 Siditi, which seems kind of like a really interesting split to be making. 4 Unstable Form, which I think is very interesting choice. Play your Jotun Hurler and Unstable Format, I guess. An Island's Favor, 4 Privilege of Rank, 4 Honor of Claws, 4 Harsh Rule. So it's a mid-range deck that plays Harsh Rule.
Yeah, this deck is awesome. I love the fact that they're going with, harsh rules, and there's a pristine light in the market, and playing Rost with it, because that means that his Rost doesn't go away. It just keeps coming back every 3 turns if he can manage it. And Crown Watch Press Gang, will draw him another 1-cost unit. It comes back because it's got Revenge. This deck is really, really cool, very innovative, I think. And it's really wild that he can play Siditi, which costs 5 Justice Influence, and Rost that costs 5 Primal Influence.
Yeah, to be fair, Haru is one of those faction pairs, because they have the insignias, that it seems manageable. I do think that it's really odd that they were playing 4 harsh rules in a what I would call a mid-range style deck. But
I can see it. It's once you have your Hojin and you activate them, you don't care. You don't care that it's I guess, how does he really activate it? He can unstable form it. He can't really activate it.
Yeah, I don't know. It obviously worked for them because they won. So
yeah, it might just be
congratulations.
concession to aggro, just gaining some life early game and threatening.
Yeah. Who knows? It's a very interesting list, to say the least. I am sure that it's not easy to pilot. So second place was taken by Allison, who had the wonderful deck name of, "Oh God, yes, Daddy, please desecrate your brainless bimbo. Happy Father's Day." I just gotta say, I love Allison. She makes some amazing deck names. So this is a pretty standard Stone Scar list. She stuck with the Flame Blasts and kept Eclipse Dragon. I think they cut Eclipse Dragon in the other version for Tazboo. She's not playing the Tazboos. Interesting, she's playing Crooked Alley Guide, which is a summon scout shift 1/3/3 that costs 3 if you were to play it normally. So little bit, I would call this aggro mid. This is definitely more on the aggro side than the mid-range side.
Yeah, Crooked Alley Guide is a 1-drop basically that can be a 3-drop if you need it to be. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yep. So why don't you take us into our 3rd and 4th place list?
Third place is by the great Parliament teammate Almost. It's called Unnamed Tournament Deck. It is basically, it is Huru Control.
Yep.
There's not a single card in here that is a surprise, but Almost made it to 3rd place. So congrats with that, Almost.
I will say the really spicy thing that Almost is doing here is he's playing 4 Siditis in Huru Control.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think he's really. I think the only way that he would activate that is with his Rhyme Conclave Smugglers, but even without it, it's really strange that it's the Svetchius Sanctums. He can just make a dude swing with a whole bunch of his Svetchius Sanctums. He doesn't care if they die because he's just going to make more, and then he Siditis.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's cool.
It's interesting. It's weird. So take us to our 4th place.
Fourth place is Berdane says baby needs anime. Oh, baby needs a name, I think.
Yeah, baby needs a name because this is the first place list from ETS, which was not named.
Reclaimer.
So this is the list that I called Argentport Even Reweave, because that's essentially what the deck is trying to do.
Yeah, Reweave, Reclaimer, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. So moving on to 5th through 8th place, going to breeze through these for an obvious reason. So T-Chamber 5, Team Breakstar, Stone Scar mid. This is literally the same 75 that we mentioned just a little bit ago, so nothing new there. And then Marvin the Imp from Team Not Tavrod brought Praxis Pledge, which is literally the same 75 that we went over earlier with Zuberries and the one Sandstorm Titan.
Yeah.
Moving on. Mr. Meeseeks playing Stone Scar mid-range with the exact 75 from ETS. Moving on. Jarbo, our friend Jarbo, playing GHP Stone Scar, which, guess what? Same 75. Yeah, I'm glad we got through that.
Yeah, that like 4 of the top 8 was Stone Scar, the exact same 75. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but 9 out of the 16 people who were in the Invitational were on Stone Scar of some sort.
So take that with a grain of salt. There was a lot of Stone Scar, and four of them may have topped to 8'd, but they were over half of the field. So that makes sense.
Yeah. 4 of them top 8'd, but 3 of those 4 were in the bottom 4 of the top 8.
So moving on to our next topic, we are going to talk about the Opal Waystone Classic. Now, if you guys don't remember, I believe in the earlier weeks of recording this, they attempted to run the Opal Waystone Classic, and I forget what exactly happened, but it didn't work out. They have officially rescheduled.
Yeah, the website broke.
Oh, yeah, it always does. But not this time because it's been upgraded.
It's true.
So it's been rescheduled for Sunday, June 23rd. Go to eternaltournaments.com, which I believe I mentioned this last time. The website is definitely been upgraded and is a lot more user friendly. So I will attest to that. The Opal Waystone Classic is a deck building challenge where decks must contain a minimum of 8 cards in at least 4 different factions. Multi-faction cards count, but the market does not. Cargoes will not count. Prizes for the event are first place gets $150, second place gets $100, third and fourth place will get $50 each, and all of the top 4 will get limited edition custom wall tapestries that will be provided by Inked Gaming, I believe.
Actually, I think it said top 3, maybe top 4.
It's top 4.
It's been changed.
Okay. I have confirmed that with The Rock.
Awesome. Something that was not that you guys may not know. Papa Capricorn, the owner of Shiftstone, creator of Shiftstone, he messaged me the other day and said that he may want me to do casting for it. So if they need more people to cast, so you may see me there. I mean, even if not, I'll be in the chat talking about it, because that'll be super fun. I love the weird formats like this.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe trying to do this. It seems very interesting. We'll see if I have the time. I just don't know when I'll find the time to actually test deck lists out, and I've never been much of a deck builder, so
yeah, you'll probably pull a deck from somebody else and play with it, tweak it to your liking.
Very likely that'll be what happened if people are even going to reveal deck lists. I know that a lot of the bigger teams have been extremely secretive about the list that they came up with. I know there was a little bit of controversy, but I'm not going to talk about it because I don't know details and I don't want to spread misrumor. Leading into our last topic.
Yeah, I'll start this one off here. User Alpacalypse on the subreddit was banned. I believe it was yesterday, maybe the day before. So he was Alpacalypse on the subreddit, but he was Poetic Discord on Twitch. And as a mod, I can really only reiterate what's been said at length in the various posts that you'll see on the subreddit here. So let me actually pull that up real quick. Eternal. There we go. The official statement: he was banned for misinformation, among a million other things. I actually personally went back through 4 months of his history of posting comments on the Eternal subreddit. Not to mention having to dig through the ones where he posted on the AI Eternal subreddit or the different other subs. I didn't take those into account, but we as mods had to remove 14 of his comments due to breaking the rules over the last 4 months, which is kind of insane.
That's a lot.
I was keeping track also of things that that should have been removed, but either weren't because they were downvoted into oblivion and they were like, down in a bunch of comment threads that didn't matter. Or for some reason or another, we removed something else that made it harder to see. There were 33 other comments that we could have removed and probably should have removed. So, he has a history of breaking the rules with no recourse for his actions. He had no intention of changing his behavior at all. So what happened was we made a survey where we wanted feedback from the community. We were thinking about changing one of the rules on the subreddit, and we thought, it'd probably be better if we send out a general feeler about all of the rules first. And so we sent that out, and the first comment was Alpacalypse saying, "I know this is about me," which is incorrect. And so he said something about a mod sends him copies of the reports that they get when he gets something reported, like if they say something ridiculous about him. That's what he said. And so Huldir, 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 he's one of our mods. He messaged him privately and asked for proof of this claim that Alpaca made, just to verify the claim. And Alpacalypse said, "No, I'm not going to snitch on my friends." And Huldir said, "If you don't snitch, I'm going to ban you." And Alpacalypse immediately took a screenshot of that and posted it to the subreddit. If you have a problem with a mod, you go to a different mod or to the mods above them, because that is very clearly against the way that we do things as mods. If we're going to take action on an account, generally we are communicating with each other in the Discord, that kind of thing. Now, Huldir has been punished. We have removed his banning powers. He's still technically a mod, so he still can weigh in on discussions, but he can't really do anything. Also, we are keeping the ban against Alpacalypse. He should have been banned a bazillion times before. And we've talked about it at length a bunch of times, though it wasn't this specific time. We don't agree with how the ban happened, but we do agree with the ban. So we are keeping the ban. Yeah, I guess that's about all I'm going to say here for right now. There's a million things that have been said on the subreddit. Feel free to go read it. Jay, what is your opinion on the ban?
All right, so I just want to forward this with obviously my opinions are my own and I have nothing to do with the mods because I'm not a mod. Anything that I say right here does not reflect how Shark may feel or anything along those lines. And a lot of things that I'm going to say, I'm just going to say them and that's what they are. I'm not going to ask for Shark to give me any of his opinions or anything on this. Exactly. So first off, I do want to say this is going to be a net positive, I think, for the community. Alpacalypse did some positive things for the community, such as legendary tracking or gauntlet posts or tournament/Steam DB posts. But it is, in my opinion, that a lot of these things are easily replaceable. Maybe not everybody goes out there and tracks all of these packs that are opened and that kind of shit. I don't know much about Alpaca's involvement in the Gauntlet community, so I'm sorry for those of you who highly valued Alpaca's input on that front. I have no idea or anything to do with that, but I truly...
He hasn't been removed from the AI Eternal subreddit. That's a completely separate subreddit, and we are not mods of that, so...
and so now I care less. So yeah, so like and I think that Alpaca was an extremely abrasive person, constantly stirring the pot, not a very positive driver most of the time for the community. I think that it's not a good look for new players coming in to be a person who is constantly posting about the game dying, being abusive towards devs, being combative with mods. Like, I just think that there's a lot of things that Alpaca did that gave Eternal a bad look to somebody from the outside and drove away people that are on the inside. Now, that all being said, I do want to say that it is my personal opinion that the best way to handle this situation would be to remove Holdir from the mod staff completely. Um, that's just my opinion. I think that they acted outside of the lines that they should have, and even though the end result was good, I think that the way that they got to that point was incorrect, and not necessarily to satiate all of the people that are beaten off to Alpaca lives, but like because it's the right thing to do. I think that um even though Holdir's mind was in the right place, in my opinion, the way they went about it was incorrect. And I mean, them losing mod status. I mean, if they can't ban anybody anyways, I feel like that it's probably not too far fetched to go ahead and go the whole 9 yards and remove them from the discussions completely, because they've shown that they didn't practice those skills necessary to be a mod. That's all I'm going to say about the topic. I think it's positive. So let's move on to our average brew of the week and get out of this stupid topic.
Thank you for your opinion.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So brew of the week, like I said earlier, is Bike Spokes' ETS top 8 list. I believe that the first time I saw this was when it was posted. I believe The Shadows with a 0 for the O was playing this list on his stream. He's a new streamer. He would be our streamer of the week if we still did that. So go check him out. THESHAD0WS on Twitch. But this list is slightly different, I believe. I don't have both of them pulled up next to me here, but this Team Genji list, it has 4 Dark Return, it has 3 Seek Power, it has 4 Annihilate, 4 Desecrate, 4 Reweave, which again is my favorite card in the new set. And then it plays 4 Street Urchin as 1-drops, which can be gotten with the 4 press gangs that are in the list. And then it has 1 Gar Master Sandmage in the list, as well as 4 Blackhall War Leader, 4 hidden, 4 the Argentport Smuggler, 4 Stonepowder Alchemist, 4 Vishni, 4 Vara, and 4 Tazbu. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 Vishni and 4 Tazbu. Now, so this list is really interesting. The one that I was playing is slightly different. Usually what I found the deck doing is having a 1-drop, reweaving it into Gar as early as possible, or getting Crown Watch Press Gang, reweaving the 1-drop that you get, or reweaving the Crown Watch Press Gang into either a Vishni or a Merchant or or a Gar, because Gar completely silences when you shift it, which is what reweave does. It silences every unit in your opponent's hand, and when they play one with flying, it also gets silenced, which is really, really powerful. Mm-hmm. The list that Shadows was running, instead of having 4 Street Urchins, it had 3 Street Urchins and 1. What's the 0/2 that when it dies you make a 2/2 flying gargoyle?
Oh yeah, I forget what it's called. Yeah,
but yeah, like that. It was either you went and got Street Urchin to draw cards off your opponent's deck, or you went and got the Slumbering Stone to reweave and then get the Gar immediately, because that gives you a 2/2 with flying, and it completely nullifies your opponent's units in their hand. This deck is really interesting. It's kind of difficult to play correctly or play well. Like sometimes you feel like, oh, I wish I had just this one more thing, or like, but it always feels like that almost.
Yeah, it's halfway between a mid-range deck and a toolbox deck, which is what I like about it, because I did really like the toolbox reweave decks, but this like kind of errs more on the side of less cute and more consistent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's also the really cool interaction where if you play a turn 2 Black Hole War Leader and you hit them with it, you can smuggler for a Mocto and give it plus whatever with the Black Hole War Leader, or you can play a Crown Watch Press Gang, and the one cost unit that you draw gets buffed up with the Black Hole War Leader, and if you get the Street Urchin, you can activate it more times to draw more cards from your opponent's deck. It's got a lot of weird little interactions that you don't really think about until you actually play it. It's pretty cool.
Cool. So let's move on to our brewskis of the week. So I'm going to talk about mine real quick. So this week I brought Trug's Troganator. I guarantee that I pronounced that incorrectly because I obviously don't understand how to pronounce an umlaut. But Trogs, Troganator, then by that logic, it is a double bock beer that is very fucking delicious. I don't know what else to say about this beer. It's so fucking good. It's not my typical type of beer. I usually like the IPAs, as most of you know by now, but it's very like caramely and chocolatey, and like, I don't want to say cherry. It's not cherry, but there's definitely some sort of fruit in there too. That's just like, it's a very tasty, like, this is the type of beer that I would drink with a meal. Like, I don't like to drink too often with my meals, like, unless they're like very light beers, but this is like one of the heavier beers that I enjoy drinking when I eat.
That's awesome. Yeah. My list here is called Strawberry Letter 23 by Dewclaw Brewing Company, which is actually a Baltimore-based brewing company. I didn't know that before I picked this, but it is. So this brewski is a tart strawberry IPA. I know that who was it that said that the last time? They were like, they said something like, "Will they get away from IPAs?" But no, alas.
Shit. Yeah, it's very hard to get us away from the IPAs.
It's true. However, this tastes more like a sour than it does an IPA. Like it's not bitter at all. It doesn't. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm not huge on sours, so I could only really have one of these before I was like, okay, I need something that's an actual beer.
Yeah, so sours have been growing on me recently. I have like been kind of going out of my way to get sours. When we were on vacation, we went to this barbecue joint in Little 5 Points in Atlanta. I feel so bad that I can't remember what the place was called, but it's like apparently pretty famous. And they had this like raspberry sour can there that my fiance got, and it was the best fucking sour I've ever had, which is not saying much because I've only had like 7. And it like was the perfect beer to be like, oh, it's a hot day. Like,
that's awesome.
That. Yeah, it was very good. I'd have to look it up. I'll try and see if I can get some between now and the next few episodes so that I can talk about it.
Gotcha.
All right. Cool. Sign offs. Shark, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Discord. That's the best place to find me. I'm active there all week when I'm not streaming or when I'm not doing this podcast. Jay's going to post the link below if I poke him hard enough. You can find me on Twitch as TallSharkandHandsome. You can find me on Reddit as TallSharkandHandsome plus 4960. You can find me on Reddit as TallSharkandHandsome, where I am one of the mods. And you can find me on Twitter as @SharkandTall.
Because TallSharkandHandsome wouldn't fit.
Gotcha. How about you, Jay?
So you can find me on Sharker Bassoon Buffoon's Discord, which Bassoon Buffoon's Discord has been a little dead lately, but then again, he hasn't been streaming very much. I really hope that man gets back to streaming because it makes me sad in the pants. So my Twitch is JayOSU. I try to stream like once a week. I just bought back into Magic Online, like I mentioned at the top of the cast. So there's a good chance that the next few streams are going to be Magic related. Even though like Stoneblade is not very good right now. And you can find me on Eternal, JayMang plus 8035. Reddit is JayOSU, where you can make fun of me for my big bowl cut. And Twitter is at JayOSU, which I never check it, so I don't even know why I mention it anymore. So if you have any questions or topic suggestions, please leave a comment, preferably on the Reddit thread. What?
I found the dude. His name was Matricles. He posted on episode 16.
Oh, okay. Magically, I am consciously trying to make an effort to not be drinking IPAs just for you.
I am not.
So try to not leave the comments on the YouTube because I literally don't see them until I'm uploading the next episode. I'm sorry. It's just I keep forgetting to look.
Put the comments wherever the hell you want. Don't listen to Jay.
Yeah, you're probably correct. You should probably you just do it however you want, boo. So thank you for joining us for episode 17 of The Eternal Struggle. We appreciate you and stay average.